Well, this week we saw Iowa Republicans impose their will in Des Moines. State lawmakers acted fast to enact some of the toughest abortion restrictions in the country. Protesters filled the Capitol Rotunda for Tuesday's special session. Republicans gave Governor Kim Reynolds exactly what she wanted in the special session she called a ban on abortions at 6 weeks of pregnancy. Republicans called the fetal heartbeat bill. Reynolds eagerly signed it into law on Friday. Democrats could do nothing to stop it. Republicans control 64% of the House and 68% of the Senate. Now, the law does provide exceptions in cases of rape, incest, and when their mother's life is in danger, though that didn't stop the ACLU and Planned Parenthood from suing to block it. They claim the exceptions don't make a difference. Here's a breakdown of the vote during the special session. It passed the House by a vote of 56 to 34 with 10 absent and cleared the Senate 32 to 17 with 1 absent. One Republican there voted with the Democrats. Now, this action taken by Republican lawmakers, despite a poll by the Des Moines Register earlier this year that found 61% of adults in Iowa think abortion should be legal in most cases. No one should be surprised by the outcome of the Iowa special session, given the strong majorities Republicans enjoy in Des Moines, but it certainly came swiftly. We'll get to that now with Iowa State Senators Chris Knoyer, a Republican, and Cindy Winkler, a Democrat. Thanks both of you for your time. Let's start right away. Senator Knoyer, I'll start with one question you can probably answer better. Why was it so important for Republicans to do this now in a special session when your party could easily do the same thing in January?
Well, I think it was important in order to save lives, honestly. When the Supreme Court wasn't able to rule on the injunction, they were tied at a 3-3 impasse. It was important to us as Republicans to save as many lives as possible. And if we would have waited until January, it would have just been that many more lives lost. The governor, it was important to her as a pro-life governor as well to get this taken care of and resolved as soon as possible. So I think it was incumbent on her and all of us who want to save protect as many unborn lives as possible to get it done as soon as we could.
Well, Senator Winkler, what do you make of the timing?
Well, the timing was unfortunate. We had the bill less than 3 days, and we adopted rules that actually eliminated the public from having a voice in the process. This is certainly not only a legal decision, but a personal decision that many individuals make, and it's very unfortunate that we felt that taking away bodily autonomy from women in this process was so very important that we did it in less than 12 hours.
Now, we know where both of you stand on the issue. Don't want to re-debate the entire issue. I guess one of the questions I have is how rigorously can this be enforced now that it's going to be law? Will the state go after doctors and women who break the law? What will that mechanism be? Senator Knoyer, do you have a good idea about this?
Well, first of all, I want to correct something that Senator Winkler said. I mean, this exact law passed in 2018. This isn't certainly something that happened in 12 hours or overnight. It's been something that we have had passed and is in law in Iowa since 2018. So I just wanted to make that correction. In terms of enforcement, there is no criminal or civil liability on the woman in this bill, and it is incumbent on the Board of Medicine to apply sanctions against just like any other occupational license against any doctor that should break the law, according to how the bill is written.
How do you feel that can be tracked, though, Senator?
The doctors take an oath and they are licensed through the Board of Medicine, and it is incumbent on them to follow the law of Iowa when they are practicing in the state of Iowa. And the bill is very prescriptive in terms of the detection of a fetal heartbeat. I think there's either a heartbeat or there's not a heartbeat. So it's very clear, and if that is not followed the board is reported to the Board of Medicine, it will be enforced.
Senator Winkler, how do you feel this will be enforced? Do you agree that?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult. The language is not clear. The gynecologists and obstetricians both testified that they were using inaccurate medical terms, and as I would identify from a letter that we got from college obstetricians and gynecologists, it says it is inaccurate to characterize an embryo's or fetus cardiac development as a heartbeat, but they are imposing that definition as early as 6 weeks in a pregnancy. And It's one of those things that we have seen in many of the other states, and although this particular legislation was in code, it was under an injunction, and so it never went into effect. And to identify that this is something that individuals had several years to deal with is so very inaccurate. Many of the individuals who currently serve in the House and the Senate were not even elected when this bill was first passed in the legislature. And so the new pieces of information that have come along have to do with the Dobbs decision and how that has impacted decisions that state legislatures have jurisdiction over.
It certainly has put everything up for grabs. And last year, 4 states put the abortion rights issue to voters with ballot initiatives. However, Iowa is one of 24 states that doesn't allow citizens to initiate referendums. Where do you stand on changing this law to open up the state's democracy and let the people of Iowa have the final say on this issue, and should perhaps bring up anything else they feel is important? Senator Winkler?
Well, I know that many people would like to see us have the opportunity to do that. The only way that we have currently is to amend our Constitution. It certainly would be something that should be up for discussion. I would look forward to having an opportunity where citizens have more input in moving things forward that they feel the legislature isn't addressing.
Senator Knoyer, what about opening up this issue or others to statewide referendums?
Well, and I would say that we have elections every 2 years where we elect our legislature, the 150 legislators that represent the 3 million plus Iowans around the state, and we all ran as pro-life legislators. We were all elected. Since the heartbeat bill was passed in 2018, the Republicans in both the House and the Senate have expanded the majorities. So I would say that the people of Iowa speak every 2 years when they elect their local officials that represent them to go and enact bills that they believe in, and one of those is to protect human life.
Well, you mentioned the deadlock in the Supreme Court this year that prevented this previous 6-week ban on abortion from becoming law. There's already a legal challenge that could eventually wind up there again. How confident are either of you in a ruling that goes your way? Senator Knoyer.
Yeah, well, I believe that with the Dobbs decision, giving the power back to the states to determine how abortion is regulated, we passed. I think that's really important because that's more of a local elected official. People of Iowa will determine at more of a local level how they want abortion regulated at the state level. But I think it's really important that, just in terms of how we can start saving lives immediately, I think that I think that's just what we need to start doing. I think it's what Iowans believe in. And in terms of the court decision, it's unfortunate, but I think the fact that we're passing the same bill that we passed in 2018, and the decision that came from the Supreme Court saying that it was somehow a hypothetical law. None of the laws that we pass out of the legislature are hypothetical. These are bills that get debated, they get public input, they're voted on, they're signed by the governor, and they are enshrined in the Iowa Code. So I think at this point, with the Constitution of Iowa and the rights of Iowans, the Supreme Court will, I believe that they will rule on the side of life next time that they see this case in front of them.
Senator Winkler, how confident are you in the Supreme Court decision that is very likely to weigh in on this case?
Well, at the same time that they ruled in just this in the last couple of months in regard to bringing up and allowing the fetal heartbeat bill to go into effect, they also identified that the same standard would hold in undue burden. And this particular bill certainly limits an individual's opportunity to have access to reproductive care. It also limits gynecologists and obstetricians' standard of practice in how they have to address situations that come before them. They have gone through 12 years of perfecting their skill and their knowledge base and on health issues, and in many cases, it takes away that patient-doctor relationship and places the legislature in the middle of it.
Iowa State Senators Chris Knoyer, Cindy Winkler, I'm sure we're not hearing the end of this issue as of yet. Thank you both for your time, and both of you be safe.